Welcome back for Game Week 2 of Fantasy EFL. My voice still hasn't recovered from Peterborough away on Saturday, but unfortunately I need to get a few video recordings done today to catch up, so sorry if you can hear that. But anyway, Game Week 1 is done and dusted, and for a game week that started pretty badly for me, it didn't end too badly. I'll go through my Game Week 1 team and ranking in my Game Week 2 team selection video later in the week, so if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Let me know how you got on in Game Week 1 and if you were happy with your selections. Anyway, it's now time to focus on Game Week 2. So this video will basically be a series throughout the entire season, once per game week, so I can basically fit in as much information as possible into one video to help you with your teams for that game week. So first of all, we'll go through the previous game week scores, and in future that'll be previous form for teams, and then we'll look specifically at certain players. Just a quick reminder that you can only pick a player 5 times throughout the season. So if a player does really well one week, that doesn't necessarily mean you should put them in your teams the following week. You should try and target the fixtures where they have a higher ceiling. After that, we'll go through the teams to target in Game Week 2, with stats like clean sheet potential, win potential, my prediction and stuff like that, followed by certain players to target from those teams, to take advantage of both the fixtures and the point scoring system, like we did just for Game Week 1. Just before we get into it, I'd just like to say if you are enjoying these videos, please do subscribe. I'll be doing these videos throughout the entire season, so it really does help me out. Okay, so let's have a look at some important results from Game Week 1. We'll start in League 2 with Wimbledon versus Colchester. Colchester had the perfect start as they were 2-0 up after 9 minutes. It was actually their centre-back in Ben Goodliff that scored both goals. They went on to lose the game 4-2, which doesn't bode well for them having a good season. They only managed an XG of 0.48 all game. Wimbledon's Matthew Stevens managed an XG of 0.88 by himself, so someone to keep an eye on with his strike partner also getting a goal and assist. Doncaster flew out of the blocks, beating Accrington 4-1. Accrington did play some nice stuff at times and there is some potential there, but I'd still be worried for them over the season. Luke Molyneux was the star player of the game, scoring twice and grabbing an assist too. With Doncaster one of the favourites to win the league, they are definitely a team to keep an eye on their fixtures. I'm specifically looking at their home fixture to Morecambe in Game Week 3 personally. Gillingham also won 4-1 at home to Carlisle, who also play Morecambe in Game Week 2. A tough start to the season for Morecambe, I've got to say. An interesting stat from this fixture though, was that Gillingham ended the game on 1.1 XG, whereas Carlisle finished on 1.79 XG. But obviously Gillingham went on to win 4-1, so it's not really representative of the expected chances in the game. Jack Nolan was a standout performer, as well as John Williams when he came off the bench. Port Vale were another team that made a good start to the season with a 2-0 away win over Salford. Midfielder Ben Garrity scored both goals with an XG of 0.82. Salford's Stephen Negru made 11 clearances through the game, so someone to keep an eye on as well. Other special player mentions from League 2 go to Sebastian Quirk of Accrington, who managed 7 successful tackles, and Anthony O'Connor, who I had in my team, making 15 clearances and 3 blocks. This literally proves the importance of the point system, as even though he didn't keep a clean sheet and got a yellow card, he still managed to end with 7 points at the end of the game, so it's well worth the research in my opinion. Moving on to League 1 with some shock results, with Crawley beating Blackpool, Exeter beating Rotherham, and Reading getting a point away at Birmingham. Not the start to the season those bigger teams were looking for. Teams that started the season looking really strong include Huddersfield, who won 2-0 away at Peterborough, and I was there in the town end. Standout performers in the midfield were Ben Wiles and Anthony Evans, but Miller on the left and Sorensen out on the right also looked very dangerous. Reece Healey actually managed 0.85 XG without getting a goal involvement, so if he could start putting his chances away, he could be a fantastic option. Stockport also started well with a 2-0 win over Cambridge, with striker Kyle Wootton getting a goal and assist. Bolton got off to a good start with an away win at a decent look in Leyton Orient. Ricardo Santos made 6 clearances in the game, so a player to think about for the coming games. Wrexham started off the way they left League 2 with plenty of goals scored and plenty of goals conceded, as they clinched a 3-2 win over Wycombe. That being said, Richard Cohn, Wycombe's striker, looks a player to also keep an eye on, with a goal, 7 shots and an XG of 0.74. Other honourable mentions from League 1 include Dan Kemp of Stevenage, who managed an XG of 1.22, although he did miss a penalty. but Elliot List also managed 0.97 xG, so maybe Stevenage are a team to look out for. The defensive pairing of Tobias Mulaki and Josh Flint of Crawley made 12 and 10 clearance respectively. Midfielders Callum Camps of Stockport and Ethan Irihon of Lincoln both made 5 interceptions, which would have been plus 10 points each with the scoring system. Finally, for this section of the video, let's have a look at the Championship. After a disappointing pre-season, West Brom made a good start to the season with a 3-1 away win over QPR. With, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Josh Meyer, I think it is. West Brom fans, please let me know how to pronounce that. Anyway, he scored all 3 goals. Semi Ajayi also made 8 clearances in that game, so maybe someone to think about with them playing Leeds next, who we'll also talk about next, but look a very attacking side. Leeds drew 3-3 at home to Portsmouth, which could be seen as a bad result, but if Portsmouth end up anything like Ipswich did last season, then we might not be saying that in a few weeks' time. I feel like Leeds can score against any defence this season, but picking the right attacker can be difficult. Both Joseph with 0.64 xG and Willie Gnonto with 0.49 both looked good, but neither were at the level of Portsmouth's Callum Lang at 0.81 xG and scoring 2 goals. Junior Firpo looked threatening with 0.35 expected assists. Defender Conor Shaughnessy also made 3 blocks and 10 clearances in the game. After a worrying pre-season and fans unhappy with signings, Watford made a surprisingly good start to the season with an away win at Millwall. Edo Kayambe was actually on set pieces for Watford and scored straight from a corner, so definitely someone to keep an eye on. Norwich were a massive letdown in Game Week 1, losing 2-0 to Oxford. But what a start for them, by the way. Harris and Brannigan both on the score sheet. Not really any standout performers in terms of like the extra points you can get in Fantasy EFL, but maybe not a team to underestimate this season, although they do have a tough away game at Coventry up next. Let's hope that I learn from my mistakes. I probably won't though. Sunderland, Sheffield United and Blackburn all looked solid in Game Week 1. Blackburn did play a weak Derby side though, who I expect to struggle this season, but still not to be ignored. However, the standout team and top of the league at the time of recording, as I'm having to record this before the Luton versus Burnley game, is actually Sheffield Wednesday, and they looked very, very strong. Granted, again, it was against a weak Plymouth side under Wayne Rooney, so maybe let's not go crazy here, but I was very impressed by the Wednesday performance. High press, outplayed Plymouth on every part of the pitch, and Jamal Lowe looked excited up front. He managed an XG of 1.4, and their XG as a team was a huge 4.59, with 30 shots and 10 on target. Lewis Gibson of Plymouth was forced to make 10 clearances, which could be a regular occurrence in that Plymouth team. Galloway also made 8 clearances and 6 blocks. Anyway, just maybe Plymouth will be the team to target for this season while Rooney's in charge anyway. Bear in mind that they are definitely worse away from home. One final player to mention is Dominic Hyam from Blackburn, who made 11 clearances, even with the winning the game 4-2, so he could be a useful asset too. So that's all my thoughts and stats to go through from Game Week 1, so hopefully that's been useful, and now we'll move on to Game Week 2. Okay, starting again with League 2, I'm going to go through the home fixtures first, and then we'll go for some away ones. We'll then go through clean sheet potential, win potential, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll rank them in order of with my final thoughts for each set of fixtures, best to worst. Okay, so starting off with Port Vale versus Tranmere. Port Vale have a clean sheet percentage of 38.1 and a win percentage of 55.6. Port Vale, under the management of Darren Moore, who is quite a defensive-minded manager anyway, beat Salford away 2-0, so kept a clean sheet last week, and Tranmere also drew 0-0 at home against Notts County, which obviously bodes well in the favour of a Port Vale win and a clean sheet. The next team I like is Bradford at home to Salford. Bradford with a clean sheet percentage of 35.7 and a win percentage of 54.5. Bradford opened the season with a 2-1 away win at MK Dons, one of the favourites to win League 2, scoring 2 goals in the first 5 minutes. We've just spoken about Salford, who lost at home to Port Vale, so I think they'll also struggle in this game away at Bradford. Moving on to some away fixtures, I like the Doncaster fixture away at Newport, with Doncaster having a clean sheet percentage of 38.1 and a win percentage of 55.6. Doncaster beat Accrington 4-1, while Newport lost away at Cheltenham 3-2. The final fixture from League 2 that I like is Gillingham away at Morecambe. Gillingham also won their fixture 4-1, while Morecambe lost 1-0 to Walsall. If I was to now rank these fixtures in favourite to least favourite to target, then I'd put Port Vale at the top, as I think they've got the best chance at a win and a clean sheet. I'd then put Gillingham in second, as I just think they'll be way too strong for Morecambe. In third, I'll go for the Bradford fixture. I expect Bradford to win that, seeing as though it's a home fixture, but I could also see Salford nicking a goal in there. And then finally we'll go Doncaster. Newport obviously scored twice in their opening fixture, so we know they can find the back of the net. Again, I do expect Doncaster to win this game just by being a better team, but as it's an away fixture, I don't think their clean sheet potential is quite as high as the others. Moving on to League One again, starting with the home fixtures. First with Charlton at home to Leyton Orient. Charlton started with a scrappy game away at Wigan, but managed to scrape the 1-0 win. So it seems like the mentality of the side is there, and although Leyton Orient did put up a decent performance, losing 2-1 in the end to Bolton, I think the away fixture at Charlton may be just too tricky for them. Charlton have a clean sheet percentage of 40 and a win percentage of 51.4. Huddersfield are at home to Stevenage in Game Week 2 and have a clean sheet percentage of 44.4 and a win percentage of 55.6. Huddersfield were very strong in their 2-0 away win over Peterborough, and even with Stevenage putting in a good performance to beat Shrewsbury 1-0, I think away from home at Huddersfield it'd be very tricky for them to get anything from it. Another home team I like is Rotherham at home to Bristol Rovers. I know Rotherham did lose their opening game to Exeter, and Bristol Rovers did win at home to Northampton, but I can just feel a Rotherham winning this one. Rotherham have a clean sheet percentage of 38.1 and a win percentage of 48.8. Finally for League One, it's an away fixture for Birmingham against Wycombe, with a clean sheet percentage of 37.7 and a win percentage of 48.8. We all know Birmingham didn't get off to the start of the season they wanted, but I think even away from home their team should be too strong for Wycombe. Again, if I was to put these in order, I'd put the Huddersfield game in first, as I expect a win and a clean sheet. The Charlton game in second, as I think they'll be too strong for Leyton Orient, but with a high chance at a clean sheet. Rotherham in third, as I expect a Rotherham win but could see a Bristol Rovers goal. And then Birmingham in last, as I do expect them to win as well, but I feel they have the least chance of a clean sheet out of that set of fixtures. Okay, now for the Championship, and there's not as many games that I fancy in here, but the main ones are Coventry at home to Oxford. So I know Coventry had a disappointing start to the season, and Oxford couldn't have been better really, but I do expect Coventry to be better than that week in, week out. It was only one game, so as much as it's hard to see that result and then expect a different result the following week, it does happen, and there's not enough data yet to know how different teams form will end up. So Coventry have a clean sheet percentage of 38.1 and a win percentage of 39.1. At the time of recording this video, Burnley are yet to play Luton, but in Game Week 2, Burnley are at home to Cardiff, who lost 2-0 at home to Sunderland in the first game. I expect Burnley to be very strong this season, and they have a clean sheet percentage of 41.7 and a win percentage of 61.9. I can't really speak much more on them until I watch tonight's game, but I'm keeping a very strong eye on Burnley. Final game I like from the Championship is an away fixture for Middlesbrough at Derby, with a clean sheet percentage of 30.8 and a win percentage of 44.4. Derby looked extremely weak against Blackburn on the opening day, and I fancy Middlesbrough to do really well in this game, even away from home. To rank these, I'd put Burnley on top, but dependent on how they look against Luton, and then Coventry in second, as I expect a much stronger Coventry performance, which should make Oxford struggle away from home. And then Middlesbrough in last, but only because I think they have the least clean sheet potential. I still fully expect a win away at Derby. Right, that's all the teams I think we should be targeting for Game Week 2, so let's move on to the final section of the video where we'll go through my watch list or target players for Game Week 2. Okay, so in defence, my first player to think about is Lloyd Jones from Charlton. I've already spoken about Charlton's clean sheet potential, but in Game Week 1, he made 7 clearances and 2 blocks. He also kept the clean sheet and scored the winning goal. Next up is Michal Helik from Huddersfield. Again, having already spoken about Huddersfield's clean sheet potential, having a look at his stats, he made 3 clearances in a dominant performance. He was Huddersfield's top scorer last season, scoring 9 goals, and Huddersfield still looked very strong from set pieces, with Anthony Evans putting in some dangerous balls. So Helik is a very strong pick for Game Week 2. Midfielders I still like is Jack Nolan of Gillingham and Luke Molyneux from Doncaster for obvious reasons, and reasons I spoke about in last week's video. I also like Ben Garrity of Port Vale with his 2 goals from midfield, and will be thinking about adding him to my Game Week 2 team. Finally for midfielders, I do like Jack Redoni. I think the Coventry vs Oxford game will involve a fast, high press from both teams, which fits Redoni's style of play perfectly. He didn't have the impact he wanted to have in Game Week 1, but I'm still very interested in him for this week. Finally onto the forwards, I'm looking at Lati Lath from Middlesbrough. He already scored once in Game Week 1, granted it was from a penalty, but the guy just can't stop scoring, so he's definitely a favourite to be in my team next week. I also like Reece Healey of Huddersfield. His underlying numbers were great against Peterborough with 0.85 XG, so hopefully in Game Week 2 he can put away his chances. There we have it, everything you need to know before picking your Fantasy EFL teams for Game Week 2. These videos do take a while to make and a lot of research goes into them, so if you could please do me a massive favour and subscribe to the channel for more content on the way. If you've watched to this point, thank you so much, you are a legend. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.